Hello, everyone out there in radio land. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. As always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 WIDR or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may turn out to be. Well, I want to start off by saying it is very cold out today. Classes are canceled here on Western's campus, which, if you're an old head, you know that barely ever happens. It's got to be winter with a capital W for classes to get canceled. So just a reminder, everybody, we are under a winter storm warning. We do have some information about warming shelters in Kalamazoo if you need a place to stay warm. Go to widerfm.org/PSA. The Saint and just for those who know, St. Luke's Episcopal Church in downtown is providing emergency shelter today from 10 to 2 p.m. So yeah, please stay safe, everybody. It is brutally cold outside and very snowy. So be safe. Very not so much icy, although ice is a big problem as we often talk about on the show, and we will be talking about that in a little bit. um, Going to be talking about some other topics today. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. We're going to spend some time on that. I did want to start, of course, as we usually do, with some of the big local stories um, that are worth talking about. And excuse me, oh, sorry, guys. I was just out there in the cold. It is nasty. But let's actually. I want to start. Speaking of ice, let's talk about this story from Bridge, Michigan, where basically. And we saw this happen in Minneapolis. Oh, by the way, I think I forgot to say this is a news program. For those just tuning in, we report on things from the local, state, national, and international level from a working class perspective. Um, so anyway, some of you may have heard, especially our neighbors in Minneapolis, that some members of the Oglala Sioux Nation had actually been scooped up and kidnapped by ICE. And this is impacting us right here in Michigan. Michigan is a border zone because of the mitten shape of our state. It's surrounded by the Great Lakes, which means the entire area of the state of Michigan is technically a border zone, which means ICE and Customs and Border Control can operate within the basically entirety of our borders. So it's again, not a fun thing to think about, but it's a very important fact to know. So there's been a lot of concerns about them scooping up, uh, you know, uh, you know, members of tribal reservations, because, and let's be frank, ICE is literally engaging in racial profiling. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've seen video of even Minneapolis. It's like, well, your accent, or something. Again, they're specifically targeting black and brown people. And um, as a scholar pointed out, I was actually just listening to Democracy Now! This morning. If you know your history, you understand that people from Mexico and South America are also indigenous to this continent, which means they generally have can have similar features to Native Americans here in the United States. So a lot of them have been getting targeted by ICE. And I wanted to read from this article. This comes from Bridge, Michigan, um, about tribal sovereignty. Hold on just a sec. Um, okay. So this is published by Justin H. Hinckley, January 16th. Michigan tribes warn members about ICE stops. Irony, maybe, is the word. Native American tribes in Michigan are warning members to carry tribal and state identification on them at all times in case they're stopped by federal immigration officers. The warnings come in response to reports that multiple Native Americans had been detained by ICE agents during ongoing raids in Minneapolis. Irony maybe is the word, said Ryan Mills, general counsel of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. Because not only are Native Americans citizens of the state they live in and the tribe they are part of, ultimately they were here before the government of the United States was created. I should also really point out, and one thing that this discourse I don't really think highlights enough, and it was something I said earlier, is people from Mexico and South America are also they were also here before the government of the United States were created and often had migration routes that went through what is now known as the continental United States. Um, again, I think it's just pointing out how farcical this whole idea is. Mill said that he knew of no instances of ICE detaining Native Americans in Michigan, but tribal members had reached out to the tribal government with concerns that ICE was targeting non-white people across the nation. ICE did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the story, but a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson told ProPublica in October that agents do not racially profile or target Americans and that we don't arrest U.S. citizens for immigration enforcement, which what was the old like Maury Povich thing? Or it's like, oh, our test determined that was a lie. So, obviously, people are getting arrested all over the place. U.S. citizens and not, especially over in Minneapolis right now. Um, and we also, as the article points out, going back to September, a U.S. Supreme Court ruling cleared the way for ICE to use race and language as grounds for immigration stops. So I think we talked about this on the show, but like basically the way like racial profiling was basically given a rubber stamp by the Supreme Court, our wonderful Supreme Court. Anyway, ProPublica identified at least 170 U.S. citizens detained, sometimes for days, by ICE agents during the first 9 months of Trump's second term. Many of the detained U.S. citizens were accused of obstructing ICE activities. Sorry. Tribes such as the Sioux Tribe, the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians, and Bay Mills Indian Community have in recent days publicly urged their citizens to carry ID and to know their rights if they're stopped by an ICE agent, including the right to remain silent and the right to request an attorney. So anyway, if you want to read that story for yourself, you can go to bridgemichigan.com. It's written by Justin A. Hinckley, published on January 16th. Michigan tribes warn members about ICE stops. Irony maybe is the best word. And I think it just kind of echoes, a couple of things that I was talking about at the top of the show here, where, again, the absurdity, again, of, people who've been on this continent for tens of thousands of years, being stopped by an organization that was created. Again, I'm older than ICE. ICE was created in the wake of 9/11, and it's also I think it's important to note too that I do want people to be wary. There's this sort of like kind of gotcha I've seen in the discourse, where it's like, oh well, why are you going to deport Native Americans? And you have to understand, and I don't claim this of everybody in the government or everybody, even everybody in ICE. I'm going to be very charitable here, but there is a goal, there is an aim from certain people in this administration. Stephen Miller comes to mind. That there is like an ethnic cleansing component to what ICE is doing. We go back to that. There's a meme they shared over the holidays. It's like, America after 100 million deportations. Now, of course, if you know your math, there's not 100 million undocumented people in the United States. But again, a lot, as we were kind of talking about this in the wrap up episode, a lot of the fascist dog whistling from a lot of the government accounts speaks to basically this desire to purify America and make America more white. It's and honestly, like, this goes back a number of years. We're on the 10th anniversary of 2016, which is a very notable year for many reasons. It's 10-year anniversary of our show, for one thing. But for many people, it's kind of the 10th anniversary of their awakening into political consciousness. Like the Bernie Sanders campaign, Standing Rock, a lot. That was a very historical year. Um, but I'd always remembered thinking, even before that, you look at the demographic shifts that were going on. There's, going to be like white people going to be a minority by like, oh, what was it, like 2030, 2040. And, for those who know their history at least a little bit, they understand that, that was bound to cause some sort of backlash. And that is precisely what we are living through right now. White supremacy, which is very much encoded in the DNA of what the United States of America is going berserk, haywire, etc., at the thought of, not even socialism or communism, but multiracial capitalism. The idea of like real multiracial capitalist democracy has, again, kind of leading to where we're at. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR. You can also find us online at widerfm.org or on Facebook, YouTube, or the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast. You can find on most podcasting apps. Keep your dial locked. This is Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR. Hello, everybody. We are back. This is Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. Joined by my co host, Lawrence. Lawrence, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, fam. How are you?
Good, good, good. It is brutally cold out there. I do want to remind everybody again, if you are out there in that cold and you don't got nowhere to go, you can find information about warming shelters at widerfm.org/PSA. Also, St. Luke's Episcopal Church downtown is going to be open as an emergency shelter until 2. But hopefully you are cozy at home, drinking some coffee, ready to hear me and Lawrence gab about all the craziness that's been going on this week. Are you in a warm nook, Lawrence? While you're on the-
Yeah, good. I do want to say, shout out. I want before we start on anything, shout out to the Lewis Walker Institute. Yesterday they had a Martin Luther King teaching, and they brought in uh, Dr. David from Chicago, and they also brought in Dr. Cornell West.
Yeah.
He was here. Yeah, shout out to everybody that was a part of that organization and getting and bringing them together, bringing them here to Western. It was a fantastic teaching that they did from like one to like 5 o'clock, and then Dr. Cornell spoke from like 5 to 6 to whatever, and it was free. And it was free.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I do.
it,
I unfortunately I wasn't able to make it to the teach-in. I had some errands to run. I think that's on their website. I think the stream is. If it is, we'll link it to it in the show notes.
yes,
Um,
it's full stream, the live stream of both the teaching that they did and Doc's speech should be on the Lewis Walker Institute. Shout out to Lewis Walker. I'm trying to see if we can get the director over. I know that they said that they wanted to come on and talk and just and talk about some of the stuff that they've been doing in the community, some stuff that I've also been helping out with or wanting to help out with when I get some more time. And but yeah, Western's been doing some really good stuff when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and uh race and restorative justice practices, and they've been putting in some work. Shout out to the good doctors, both of the good doctors. They were fantastic people.
oh yeah, yeah. I was there too, and again, Cornell West was in great form, and I think some of the stuff that really, if we have time towards the end of the show, I might play back some of what he said directly, but especially talking about like having that the spiritual fight in you in dark times to fight against like greed and evil and he was again very like we are in a dark moment, but we need to have faith in each other and we need to act, and that was the thing that probably had the biggest impression on me. Again, he's a great orator too. I know a lot of our listeners has probably read his scholarship. I know that's what got started me into this pipeline as a leftist yapper. But if you've never seen the man like speak, he took us to church. It was pretty incredible.
If you have not checked out any, like, I know that we talk about different books, um, Dr. David and Dr. West, um, uh, we when we upload this, I'll make sure that we put their books and some of the things that they've been writing in the doobly doo below, because there was a lot of conversation about King and what King actually was. There was a lot of conversations about how we are not just uh, taking the things that he said or the people that was around him, but still implementing them and using them today to fight back against the nonsense. And it's still it was a lot of learning yesterday, but there was also a lot of uh it made me feel good to be in community with like-minded people like
Mhm.
that. And also, it also reminded me when people were saying Charlie Kirk was like MLK, that was like, nah, nah, man, close.
Uh,
It's not the same. Nah. But yeah, and speaking of just absolute delusional people, we have to talk about some international news or local news that has to deal with international news.
it's a national slash international slash yeah slash whatever. Um, you know,
This administration, this administration and what they're doing.
yeah. They're amassing military forces in Alaska, and it's anybody's guess whether they're going to be deployed. A lot of people think they're going to be deployed to Minneapolis. Some folks are saying they might be staging for the imminent invasion of Greenland, which the idea that I would ever utter that sentence on the show is just like I'm. Reality is something happened a few years ago, man. It is somebody needs to save Harambe or maybe something happened with Large Hadron Collider because this particular timeline is just too nonsensical. But yeah, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the whole Greenland thing. I don't think we really have yet on the show, but
Well,
um,
for those who aren't unaware, um, our administration has been dancing with the ideology of Attila the Hun, right? Hey, if you can't defend yourself, why can't I do what I want with you? Right? That's that was Attila's strategy, right? Like, hey, y'all be better with us in control. That's also the same political or same ideology of a rapist. So and it makes sense since this is the administration that we're talking about. Um, Stephen Miller went on. He went on one of the programs recently and basically said that uh, if if Denmark or in Greenland cannot defend themselves, then they are technically not a sovereign country, and they would be in better off under our control. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but not by much. And the only reason that we're not playing it on the radio for you right now, because I'm afraid of CBS or one of those news outlets striking down our channel because we played what the fascists said. And before people say, "Oh man, don't be scared," other channels are doing it. Yeah, and people on college campuses have also been fired for quoting Charlie Kirk. So
yeah. Mhm.
we're gonna move with some caution right now. But let me see if I can pull up the actual quote of what this monster. If
Yeah.
I can pull up the actual quote of what this monster said, I'm gonna read it for y'all.
I want to issue like a bit of like historical context too. It's just so what Stephen Miller was basically saying there is a throwback to straight
So
up
go ahead.
19th century colonialism. It's the idea that we're just going to yoink your land and your resources, which through the 20th century at least, I mean, that was still happening, but that was through post World War II. World War II is kind of seen as that was the world wars kind of bisected the era of colonialism and neo-colonialism because we had kind of a different world order where countries are polite enough not to invade one another. Now, will they still exercise economic pressure and tools to put pressure on countries in order to be economically compliant? Absolutely. That's what neo-colonialism is. That's what the U.S. Has been doing for basically the decade since World War II. What Trump and his administration trying to do is basically turn back the clock on that. They detest soft power, and they want it to just all be old school might makes right um, belligerence, which again, being 100 years out of step with the rest of the world, it's an odd anachronism, and it's causing a lot of countries that are either allied or have traditionally been subservient to the United States to start asking some deep and self-reflective questions. Lawrence, I'm sorry, you had something.
So shout out to Splinter Press. They have the video up. It was on um RT channel and one of the other channels, and it says we may seize any world land you can't defend. This is the new White House doctrine. That's their new standard, their gold standard. Um, and when I first saw that headline, shout out to the Splinter Press. When I first saw that headline, I was like a bit hyperbolic, but I was like, that's a little bit hyperbolic. And then I remembered we just stole Venezuela. We just went to Venezuela and took the president of Venezuela uh, and his wife and said, "Hey, we're going to run this country now." So it went from me being like, "Okay, that's a little bit hyperbolic," to that's insanely accurate. And the new press secretary basically saying that if these countries cannot defend themselves, and these are the things that they're saying, if they can't defend themselves, then we should be able to take their territory. I want people to really game that out for themselves. If China says this same thing, hey, we're quoting the United States, and they invade Taiwan, or they invade Taiwan and any other country. What standing are we going to have to say, hey, y'all can't do that. Y'all shouldn't do that. Hey, that's not okay. We won't be able to have any standing. We won't even be able to say, y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. Hey, can
I
we
think back to like the invasion of Ukraine, and whatever you think about like Putin, his government actually they at least had the fig leaf of offering reasons why they were going to try to grab Ukraine. It's like, well, there's some Russian
they,
speakers, and they've been oppressed, et cetera, et cetera. The thing is, like, they offered, it was kind of like, again, a play on our weapons of mass destruction thing. And but there was some things they leaned into that had some kernels of truth in them and all that other stuff. I'm not going to go into the geopolitics of Ukraine and Russia, but basically what I'm saying is they at least, when the big land grab in Ukraine happened, they offered justifications. Donald Trump, what justification has he offered? He's like, I want it. It's mine. Give it to me. It's like without even the pretense of trying to make something. They have been saying like, okay, well, Greenland is imperiled by its proximity to like Russia and China. Which, by the way, if you just like pull out a map, um, China, like the closest Chinese port is thousands of miles away from Greenland, and the Arctic Ocean is full of ice. the idea of China planning a naval invasion of Greenland is absurd on its face. And so, I mean, so again is the idea of, Russia doing it. But again, it's much like it's a much as I mean, Trump gave away the game pretty succinctly. He's like he texted the Norwegian prime minister, I believe, telling him it's like, well, since you didn't give me the Nobel Prize, I don't care about peace so much. And again, it comes off as like a spoiled brat. It's like this is how a child talks when they don't get what they want. But he's talking about a sovereign territory, which I mean, ostensibly is owned by Denmark. I mean, Denmark shouldn't own it either, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah,
So,
his whole rationale is like I wants it, hand it over.
okay, we both watched the Boondocks when we were younger. Right? Right? You remember watching all the episodes of the Boondocks? He has the same ideology as the Booty Warrior. Hey, hey, I like you and I want you. Now we got
Oh,
we
oh
got to do
no.
the way or the hard way. The choice is yours. That's literally what their ideology is. They are they are the Moody Warriors, and
Yeah.
and that shouldn't be our foreign policy.
No, and
So
something that I also just want to highlight is just the absurdity of Trump doing this because um Greenland is part of NATO, which means that ostensibly they're already under US control. The United States is like the biggest part of NATO, the NATO alliance. They already have access to Greenland's minerals. They already have military bases there and clearance for their airspace. Um, and it's like if you rewind the clock 10 years ago, you talk to any neoconservative, and like that is ostensibly America having control of that zone. The idea of literally going in and invading something that you already have that kind of imperial access to is not only like 19th century like conquistador stuff, but it's also just remarkably silly and unserious. And I mean, of course, I don't want to underplay this. It's going to be very serious if he actually sends like U.S. military there to try to take over Greenland. But I think it just does underscore that, like, we're getting run by a mad king here. Like, even like, people who have the same political ideology as Trump are like, pump the brakes on this. There is literally no sane reason to be doing this other than Trump and like a very small circle of similarly um uneducated billionaires want him to do this for some reason.
oh
Um,
no, we know why. Like we understand why. Um, the reason why because they gave the game away. For those who do not know, the reason why we went into Venezuela and the reason why we are trying to shore up Greenland is because their next plan is to attack Iran and other Middle Eastern countries. When you do so, that's going to disrupt the energy market, the oil market. It's also going to interrupt uh, uh, natural resources, right? Venezuela, and mineral resources. So the the companies that are going to try to extract as many resources and stay soluble during this age of unrest, which is us going and attacking Iran and other countries. They want to still be made whole. They still want to be uh, taken care of. The problem is, the problem is to still be taken care of or to be made whole, you have to steal those resources from other countries because you can't justify doing trade with them. Doing trade with them would be the soft power, but that's not what they want to do. And the other thing that you said about the Nobel Peace Prize, the Shine Bell, the lady in Venezuela, she gave him the Peace Prize.
Yep.
Greenland can't give peace prize. Greenland literally cannot give them peace prize. That's not how they was now how it works. But the lady that won it gave it to Trump, and Trump is in 47 is still not happy. He is he is the petulant child that he's Joffrey. He is Joffrey. He might be worse.
Yeah,
He
and it's really
may be
funny too because like think of the whole calculus of giving the peace prize to Machado was basically the international community giving a green light, be like, okay, if you guys want to intervene in Venezuela, that's all right. And some like a president who's just a little bit smarter. Like maybe if like JD, if Trump croaked and JD was like sitting there at the same time, maybe they would have been
right.
savvy enough to understand that. To be like, oh yes, we're so happy that Machado got the peace prize to liberate the Venezuelans' oil. But Trump, again, he's a narcissistic reality game show host or game show host, right? So in his head, the like what would have in to somebody a little bit more savvy be understood as like a gift to American like empire and soft power is seen as Trump as a snub and as something that is deserving of retribution. And I don't think like the Europeans really have not caught up to this. They do not understand the type of person they're dealing with. Which is funny because like he was president before. Like he's like I don't know why y'all are so surprised. Um,
4 years ago, they could buy his indifference. 4 years ago, he was still mentally aware that hey, if I may do a deal with you, I'll let you slide. Now he's like I said, this man is sundowning, bro. And
yeah,
when you're sundowning like that, you're not. It's not a you're not dealing with an adult that has all their marbles. You're dealing with a young child,
yeah,
and that does not understand how to see past the immediate now. None of them do. None of his sycophants do. So they're feeding this toddler who constantly is crying and who's never satisfied.
yeah. I think they're having their Neville Chamberlain moment. And for those who don't know your history or you're like, give me a refresher. What I mean by that is, at the time, so Neville Chamberlain, who was leader of the UK at the time, this was in the late 30s, he went and had a meeting with Hitler, and Hitler was like very hospitable, and they had a very friendly chat and conversation. And it's like, can we just cool things off? And he was like, oh, sure, bro. Everything's gonna be fine. It's gonna be cool. This was a really good pep talk. Let's do lunch again sometime. Neville comes home and tells all of he's like, everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be great. Yeah, and sorry, that's terrible British impression. Um, everything's gonna be fine. And then, not too short, shortly after that, Hitler invaded Poland, and it's again they did not understand the calculus of who they were negotiating with. And I don't look the comparisons between Trump and Hitler, I think like there's certain things that are valid, but I think I do want to emphasize that like what I mean by that is Europeans could not conceive of a fellow European who was going to invade other Europeans. They thought that this was bravado, that this was just like it's like, oh, some sort of stern negotiating tactic. Not until he started marching people into Austria and Poland, etc., where they're like, oh my God, he's serious. He actually wants to invade a country full of white people, which is, I mean, that's
You
kind
ever
of
also
the underlying thing there is just like the
ever
the shock that Trump is threatening, places like Greenland and Canada. It is hard for Europeans to process, and it probably will be until it's too late.
yeah, like dog, yeah, they don't have any problems when you're stealing resources from brown and black countries. Like
Oh no, no,
it's
yeah. They'll get
the
they'll get Machado the Peace Prize. Yes.
yeah, I think the old saying was when your poll numbers are down, you attack black and brown. That was the old saying uh a, a few years ago. to justify to have to better understand why certain politicians will do the policies that they do, right? This is that same moment. This isn't new. What we're seeing isn't new. What we're seeing is just a history rhyming. It's not repeating, it's rhyming. I mean, it's repeating, it's rhyming, it's doing the same thing. It's just that we're adding we are, instead of waiting 4 or 5 years for a newspaper to get your article, you're seeing everything in 4K. Instantly.
What's that old quote? History repeats, first is tragedy, then farce, and like this is definitely like the insane clown capitalist version of the
Yeah.
1930s and 40s. But yeah,
Yeah. Doc, so not to get more down in the dumps. I mean, we're going to. Um because that leads to the other story that I personally want to make sure that we hit on. Uh there's been a number of stories, different stories that have come out of ICE and their actions.
yeah.
Uh another another they've There's been credible stories. There were credible stories in 2024 of ICE facilities basically being run like slave camps. Um, the Guardian, Drop Site, uh, Jacobin, and others have done multiple stories talking about this. We'll put them in the doobly doo below in the description so y'all can read up on the articles that we're talking about. Um, but recently, last week, ICE tear gassed a 5-year old and
Yeah.
hospitalized a 6-month old. The 5-year old and the 6-month old, these are two different instances that of these particular encounters that I want to talk about. They weren't even a part of the protest. The families were trying to get home. They were just trying to get home, but ICE tear gassed their car. Like in these two different stories, they assaulted American citizens. The people that they assaulted weren't undocumented. They were American citizens. They used tear gas and pepper spray on the families, and the kids had to get hospitalized. Like it is, it is, it is as bad as I thought it was going to be, and worse. Like the thing that makes it unfathomable for me, or just difficult for me to comprehend, is that we've seen these tactics done throughout American history. I'm thinking about when the police department blew up a police department literally dropped bombs on a black neighborhood in Philadelphia in
The,
1984.
the move bombing, yeah.
Yeah, the move bombing. I'm thinking about the tactics that we saw during Black Lives Matter, during lockdown, during Black Lives Matter, and things of that nature, right? Of the overuse of force. I remember us talking about the Proud Boys and the Three Percenters and the Klan and all that, and how they were being inducted into police departments, right? And we covered stories like that. They were being into police departments and into ICE and into these places so they could have immunity from the cruelty. Now we have on record that those groups, the Proud Boys, the Blue Boys, and all of them, they're all joining ICE, and they all have a quota, and they get paid higher bonuses to meet their quota. So they don't care if you're an undocumented citizen; they just want to get their numbers up so they can get paid more.
Hmm.
So the system, So these young people who are finding it difficult to make money are choosing to make money by breaking the backs of American citizens because they're in financial straits, and they're choosing to do this. Yes, the racism and the misogyny and the xenophobia are all included into that package, but but the results of their action, because not because of they because including because of the lack of training that they've been doing, including because of the lack of humanity that these people have, that children that are 5 years old and younger are being harmed to the point that they are being killed as well because of their actions. That that is the thing that for me it's just like they're gonna push people to the edge, and they're gonna push people to fight back, and it's not gonna be pretty. Because I'm gonna be honest, if that was my niece, if that was my niece or my nephew that I had to do CPR on because they tear gassed my car, I'm going to prison. I am going to prison. I don't care. I don't care that they can't do the sit up. They removed the sit up requirement for these ICE agents. Uh, I don't care the fact that they only have 47 days of training because they don't want to do the year and a half worth of training. I don't care nothing about that. You tear gassed a child. Where in your humanity? Where in your humanity as a human being? Forget skin color, forget all the ideology. As a human being, how much of your soul is gone that you think tear gassing a family who's trying to get home? They're not even part of the protest. Who's just trying to get home is okay.
Yeah, and just to kind of respond to some of that, like the level of again, violence and deliberate, again, agitation coming from ICE out of Minneapolis. Like, I mean, it's been well documented. This is literally the administration trying to provoke them, so that Trump's like, I'm gonna use the Insurrection Act. I'm gonna use it, and
They
that
want
type
their
of,
rock star, bro.
what's that?
They want their rock shock fire. They want the incident that will justify them using martial law.
Yeah, but one kind of glass half full thing about that, I think people need to remember this is, you know, um, in order to do what they're doing in Minneapolis, they're basically having to push most of the like ICE and DHS staff into like one city. And the people there are holding their ground. They're doing like, I think we really need to applaud the people of Minneapolis for like again standing their ground against what's been going on. But it's worth mentioning that like, I think this is something that we're going to need to think about in the troubling years ahead. That like what we've seen is they've kind of had this whack-a-mole approach to enforcement where they just descend upon one city at a time. And the reason for that is strategic and tactical because they don't have the resources to try to be doing this everywhere at the same time. It's worth mentioning. It's like, okay, if we talk about like martial law, if they're having this much trouble trying to tame one city, how do they think they're going to do that to the entire country? And I'm not saying that the administration won't do that because they again, as we've stated, Trump and the people he surround himself with do not really think rationally like that. They don't really think about blowback. They just think about retaliation, revenge, and again, justification to do that wicked stuff. But I hope I can kind of reassure people that like there are not enough DHS ICE agents in the country to uh, put down like a united uprising, which is really what we need. And by the way, just in case the feds are listening, I when I say uprising, that can mean a lot of things. One thing it can mean is people just stop contributing to the machine. A big principled general strike, I do believe, still has the power to bring the system to its knees in a way that um, few things really could. And you know, I mentioned last week, kind of taking cues from like the Black Panther Party's approach to self-defense. It is armed self-defense. It is worth mentioning that like I've been seeing a lot of right wing media that is getting, it's like, I thought these people support the Second Amendment. We're seeing reports of people on the ground in Minneapolis open carrying and then that sort of thing. And it's led to these kind of weird, hyper hypocritical responses from right wing media. It's like, oh my gosh, look at these left wing activists, i.e., regular people living in Minnesota, out there with ARs and stuff. And it's, again, yeah, pointing out the hypocrisy doesn't do anything. It's not like it breaks a spell or it breaks a curse, but I think it does highlight something that we also see from, like ice agents on the ground, which is, it is harder, whether you're talking about a geopolitical conflict like the Vietnam War or neighborhoods in America, it is harder to put down a population that is armed. And I'm not going to go into that too deeply, but it's not the idea that, and again, I think like this is kind of the narrative that the feds would like to push is like, oh, they're going to go start hunting ice agents. Where no, it is the idea that they will be more trepidatious about exercising lethal force against U.S. citizens and non-citizens alike if they understand that people in those communities are defending themselves. So yeah, it's a perilous thing to talk about because I think a lot of people worry about like there's going to be like one inciting incident where like like the quote unquote wrong person shoots the wrong person with the wrong weapon or something. But keep in mind, this is an administration that is all too happy to manufacture this whatever again they lied on Renee Good. They will lie about any forthcoming incident to justify what they're going to do. So again, better that people are taking it upon themselves to defend their communities, but just also again just be very very careful out there, because yeah, the Fed's got eyes and ears. And it's there's a very big difference between castle doctrine and defending your neighborhood and chatting about armed uprisings. One of those is going to get you in substantially more trouble.
Like I, especially hey, in Minnesota, they let Kyle Rittenhouse walk. So if we're talking
Yeah.
about we're talking about castle doctrine, or we're talking about things of that nature. I want to remind people, yeah, it. I I agree with showing showing resistance, and I agree that we need to well, yeah, pull some tactics uh from groups in the past, like general strike, and talk about general strike and things of that nature. But yeah, but what people have been doing, people blowing whistles, videotaping, publicly shaming these people, publicly shaming them to the point where you need to contact their family, being like, look at what your child's doing. You're okay with this? You're okay with your family doing this? You're if you're okay with your family being a part of this organization, we don't need you in this in our neighborhood. We don't need y'all around. There's already places in America where they're trying to do whites only towns. Y'all can go there.
Yeah.
Y'all can all y'all can all go there. Uh, but yeah, I wanted to do some quick hits on that. There's too many stories. Um, Someone that I was watching recently. Shout out to Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk, and we have to talk about him and what he did recently on some media stuff. a little later in this program. But he has a video. He has a video on his channel that breaks down a multitude of stories, talking about from ICE agents sexually assaulting inmates and sexually assaulting people that they are arresting to actively assaulting innocent protesters and then claiming that they were assaulted by them, openly lying while it was on 4K. Shout out to Status Coup and Jordan Sheridan because he got they also had a lot of that footage on their platform. Um, yeah, there's just a lot. There's a like the fact that people are choosing to be active in a safe way and being active. And also make sure that you not just document all that information, make sure you are sending it to your representatives and forcing them to be to hold those that are doing this accountable. Yes, these are federal agents, but they are also breaking state law. They can still be tried at a state level, and they cannot be pardoned by Trump if it's a state crime. If I was a
That's
governor,
true.
or if I was a mayor, or if I was like when like shout out to Zoran Mandani when Zoran said, "Hey, if the ICE agent come to New York and they break the law, they will be tried in New York as mayor. They will be tried. You cannot break the law. It does not matter who you are. If you break the law in this city, you will get arrested. And you will go to jail. And we need to keep that same energy across the board."
No, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Um, there, I have another story that I have that I need to I'm queue up in a minute. I know you had a story that you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, which one was that? Let's see. Well, I did want to spend maybe a quick second. Well, I Michigan, got to do a quick shout out to the auto worker who spoke truth to power when and Donald showed up. The
Oh, for folks to do that though, Donald Trump took a tour of a Ford factory, right? Because you know what I'm saying, he wanted to see how his plans has utterly destroyed manufacturing in this country. He went and took and started walking around and walked around a factory. Now, someone as someone who's been doing manufacturing work, I've been doing manufacturing work uh, for about 15 years. I've been working in factories, different manufacturing plants. To see people walk through while you're working, like it's a part of it's the normal thing. It happens, right? Like it's kind of whack, but you know it is what it is, right? Um, to say Donald Trump walked the factory line and to hear one of your coworkers call him a pedophile protector, to say that he's a rapist and a pedophile, and to see the president flip him off because he's speaking truth to power is one of the most amazing moments. It would have been one of the most amazing moments if I was there in the factory. But the thing that makes it sad, and this is the thing that makes it sad, from the reading from the articles I read, that person got fired.
Oh no. Actually, that has a happy ending.
Oh
If so, here's what happened. Originally, he got suspended.
yeah,
But this is why we're always talking about like power of the workers and workers' rights and stuff. There is power in a union. There's a so Laura Dickerson, who's UAW vice president for Ford, um, said the auto worker at the Dearborn truck plant is a proud member of a strong and fighting union, the UAW. He believes in the freedom of speech, a principle we wholeheartedly embrace, and we stand with our membership in protecting their voice on the job. The UAW will ensure that our member receives the full protection of all negotiated contract language, safeguarding his job and his rights as a union member. Workers should never be subjected to vulgar language or behavior by anyone, including the President of the United States. And yeah, since then, he has basically the company backed off trying to fire or suspend him, and the union is getting him reinstated. So good on them. But yeah, that was because I'm a little worried about that too. Is like, this dude's gonna lose his job, and but UAW, to their enormous credit, was willing to stand up and be like, your president can't get you fired. Nobody can. You're part of the union, but it's also important.
Oh,
That's why good reason to be in a union. All right, it's it's,
yeah,
um,
unions around here, bro. Like we
hmm
saying, we union fam. But
hmm
I'm. It is. It's funny to me because I'm like, man, if he would have got fired, could you imagine? Like, okay, we live in a country where a white woman called a 5 year old black child the N word and made almost $500,000, right?
Oh God, I remember that. Oh.
We live in a country where Kyle Rittenhouse and George Zimmerman, who killed, killed innocent people, got away with it, raised money, uh, raised millions of dollars, right? Could you imagine? Could you imagine if I got fired because I called Trump pedophile protector because he is. He's a PDF file protector, right? And and you get fired and you go on GoFundMe. Oh man, that GoFundMe is gonna go crazy.
It did too. I think it's made like $1 million or something. So
Oh
yeah.
man, you gonna retire? You gonna retire? Oh yeah, oh boy. And then I went back to work. I went back to work.
Yeah.
Oh man! Shout out to Michigan. Michigan don't play.
No, no.
Shout out,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
shout out to our state, man. If you are on some, here's the thing: if you're on some BS, we gonna run you out of here. That's just how
Yeah.
that is,
And that's pure Michigan. No,
and that's pure
that.
Michigan. All right. So, so what else did I want to talk about? Um, wait. Now I gotta look to our track. Now I gotta look to our track because like there's 4 or 5 stories that we said that we want to talk about. Hold on.
Hold on here. So I did. If we want to talk a little bit about international stuff again, I did want to talk a little bit about Iran. Um, you know, this tends to come up, especially this very specific flavor of online dialogue among leftists whenever we'll call it like a problematic state is having pressure exerted upon them by the U.S. government. So kind of what I'm referencing is, if you've been paying attention to news, there's been some protests in Iran. Um, Again, the U.S. government very much the pot calling the kettle black. It's like, well, if you start killing protesters, we're going to have to go in there. It's like, well, who's going to invade America? Because I mean, we're ICE is killing people. Um, so I want to back up and say like what I've seen is some people like make the argument that like, okay, if you are on the side of these protests, you are somehow a useful idiot for US imperialism. There's also kind of a thing from the other side where, we need to stand with Iranians, like no matter what happens, and like if they can they need to overthrow their theocratic fascist government, nothing else matters. And I know it's kind of a cliche, it's nuanced, it's a nuanced situation, but it's also there is a correct answer to this, and it's pretty simple if you're trying to approach this from like a kind of a liberatory left wing lens. And the answer is like yes, and I think like it's important to understand like the Iranian people are not stupid. You know, they understand that the U.S. and Israel are looking at the idea of their government falling and, just kind of rubbing their hands together. They want to reinstall the Shah, all that other stuff. Um, but it's important to highlight that, like, yeah, they are living under an oppressive government of their own, and it happens to be one that is not aligned with U.S. interests, but just because of that, and like I know a lot of people have highlighted, like, Iran gives, like, material support to the Palestinian resistance, and that's important. But it's also like these people have been living under this theocratic dictatorship for a very long time. People who try to uh, you go back and look at the Iranian Revolution, and this has happened in some of the other Arab Spring countries too, where kind of the kind of more openly theocratic factions and the more left-wing factions or Marxist factions are united to overthrow whatever imperial puppet government is in charge. But then afterwards, the theocratic um, government that replaces it turns around, and their next enemy is all of the Marxists and anarchists and et cetera. So I think what people need to understand is, like, we need to have some respect for the people of Iran and understand that, like, it's again, and it is a real thing. You have Israel bragging about Mossad agents on the ground instigating stuff, the U.S. doing the same. That's a real thing. But I think, like, the Iranian people know that, they understand that, better than a lot of us armchair scholars do here in the Imperial Core. And there are movements in Iran for, like, actual, like, workers' democracies. And I don't have a good answer on how are we supposed to support that from here. I honestly, I am not sure. There's the internet is down over there. There's not like a GoFundMe or something. But it is worth also understanding that the U.S. the minute the Ayatollah and his government is toppled, the U.S. is going to try to replace them with a capitalist puppet, and the Iranian people definitely don't want that. But they definitely deserve they have the right to self determination, and I think, like, if you're debating in your heart, like, what side you should be on for this, just you plant your feet, decide on the Iranian workers. And what they deserve is a free and fair state that is free from both, you know, um, the theocratic dictatorship and the tentacles of Western capitalism. And if there's anything we can do to support that, it's a good thing. But I don't, it just, the idea that there's like a very binary answer about, like, whether or not you should support this is, I think it's just, it's the wrong question. Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to blabber on too long about that, Lawrence. I don't know. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Like my, I agree with everything that you're saying, but also, uh, we talk about media analysis and we talk about the manufacturing of consent, right? How many years, how many times have you seen that? Like, I'm saying this to the audience, but I'm just saying in this discussion, we've seen Bibi Netanyahu come to America and talk about Iran, talk about how Iran's a threat that we need to take it over. How many times have we seen him literally address Congress? He wasn't invited when President Obama was in office, when he was doing the Iran nuclear deal. He wasn't invited. Invited himself over to come speak to Congress about how the deal was bad and how we shouldn't support it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the same neocons that was back then talking about how it was how it wasn't good, how it wasn't how it's going to only lead to more unrest. And it was one of the best things that was a part of President Obama's administration was the Iran nuclear deal that they held up to. They held up to their end of the deal. 45 come in and he backs up out the deal. He betrays it, ruins our standing. Then Brandon comes in, Joe Brandon comes in, says that he's going to get back in the deal, and doesn't. Biden doesn't do it. So this is a fit. This in the re-electing of Trump escalates this situation in the manufacturing of consent since the 90s. I remember him coming to America in the 90s talking about he wanted us to help. Israel wanted America to help overthrow that government. So for over 30 years, 40 going on 40 years now, right? It is if you believe that America has a good idea or has a charitable idea or has a responsibility or any type of positive thought about what they want to do with Iran, they are lying to you or you are lying to yourself. This country does not care if we live or die when it comes to healthcare. What makes you think they care about this? One of the biggest oil-rich countries in the world. What do you think? What do you think they care about? You really think they care about their people? They don't care about us. You think they care about their people in the what's in the best interest of their people? No, they care about what's in the best interest of the donors that want to see this war happen. They care
That kind of
about
reminds me of they were interviewing some Greenlanders about like what's been going on in the news, and one of them said, I'm going to paraphrase, but they were like, like why would we want to be Americans? We like having a functioning healthcare system. Like why? Yeah, it's like no thanks. Yeah, no, that's
ah right. Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that we are choosing that. Yes, it doesn't make sense that this country and the news media is still trying to perpetuate this lie that Trump has good intentions or that Bibi Netanyahu has good intentions when they talk about Iran. They don't. I'm not saying that the government of Iran is a good government or that they're not horrible to their people. They're not. They are absolutely horrible to their people. But is that our business? Should we be over there overthrowing them? Is that our business?
I'd say, like, let me pose this question for anybody who's like, well, I don't know. It's like, when has ever American intervention helped in situations like this? 'Cause it's just ask
I mean,
yourself that. That's yeah.
hey, good. If I'm another country, of course I'm going to try to get nuclear weapons. Gaddafi gave up Gaddafi, who was a dictator that America also supported, gave up his nuclear weapons. He got sodomized with a bayonet and paraded through the streets.
Yeah.
America over the country, and they have literal slave markets now because of our intervention.
Yeah,
Uh,
a lot of ink, especially back in the aughts, was dropped about like North Korea having a nuclear weapon. And again, if you're North Korea, that makes a lot of sense. Like, ain't nobody gonna be going to, kidnap Kim Jong-un or whatever. It's
hey,
you know.
as a matter of fact, our president wrote love letters to him.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, that's it.
So,
This is,
so, so
I forgot about that.
if I'm another country, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Hey guys, uh,
yeah, yeah.
if y'all want to make deals and stuff, if y'all want to make deals and y'all wanna try to work, if you want to try to work on something that's reasonable, we can do that. That's fantastic. But uh, we have to come to an arrangement that works out for everybody. This administration and this in our government and the way that we've been dealing with geopolitics and global politics, right? Nah, I'll be like, hey, yeah, you know that deal that you stepped on with Iran, yeah. When you get back into that deal and you do your end of the bargain, then we can talk about what's a better trade for everybody. Then we can talk about what we should be doing. But if you can't follow your agreements, what makes you think that we should start a new agreement with you?
Hmm.
Or what makes you think that we have no evidence that you care, that not only that you care about our people, or that you actually care about anything outside of your own interests. So, we
Yeah.
might be good.
And by the way, that credibility gap, that has effects that, extend out of Trump, even during the Biden years, who, again, I could I could, critique the Biden administration and Joe Biden for days or whatever. But one thing I will say is like he was primarily elected and viewed as a return to like the normal grown-up adult politician. But a lot of nation states were still really trepidatious about working with America because like, okay, like for the next 4 years, we know we're going to be talking to an adult, but what happens after that? Like the stability of the US empire and state was brought into question, which is kind of, there's some good and bad things that you can, take from that. But yeah, his again, that footprint of dealing in bad faith is I don't think that's something that can be easily reversed, because again, that's a very real concern for like every other country is like, okay, in 4 years, maybe like AOC or Gavin Newsom or somebody becomes president, and then what
Oh,
is Nick Fuentes going to be president after that? Who are we going to be working with?
hey, actually, speaking of, that's one of the stories that I'm glad you brought up his name. We have to talk about that softball pillow fight interview that he did with Ben Shapiro after this, after this,
All
after
right.
this, after.
Mhm.
But yeah, dog, I don't want to think about 2028. Like the last thing I want to think about is who's going to be running this country after Trump. I want to make sure that we have a functioning country and we actually have a smooth transition of power before I even think about who's fit to helm the reins of this. Because Jesus Christ, it's not looking good. It's not
Yeah.
looking good at all.
No. No.
It might be
Yeah.
I was like, your best bet may be AOC, but I want her to take Schumer's spot. But that's my personal opinion.
All right. So, with that, so you mentioned the Gavin Newsom interview that you've referenced. I didn't actually get a
And
chance to watch it, but I saw some of you call it lowlights, maybe. I wouldn't say those are highlights very much, but
the dumpster juice. That's the best way I can describe it.
the dumpster juice. Oh my God.
Like that's what it is. It was dumpster juice. Um. So since since the assassination of Kurt, right? Gavin's been not even before that, since Trump's presidency. Gavin has had the idea that it would be a good idea to be that person to be like, hey, I'm a person on the left, and people will talk to me. I'm gonna talk to everybody, right? I'm gonna talk to people that I do not agree with, and I'm gonna give them a hot stone massage, basically as an interview, right?
Yeah.
While
Oh, okay.
letting him rip his face off, right? He did it with Charlie Kirk. He did it with Steve Bannon. He did it with a bunch of people who I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing what's the purpose of this, right? So much so now that Gavin, a recent reporting that he's fighting against a millionaire tax in California. For me, that's strike one, you're out. The reason why it was not a millionaire tax, it's a billionaire's tax. The billionaire tax. The billionaire's tax that was being promoted that so that you could have affordable some of the same affordability policies that Zoran and others wanted that they have in New York. Shout out to Zoran Mondadi because he got universal free childcare in 8 days. Shout out to him. He talked about a policy. He did it. He represented. Gavin is taking a policy that over 80% of the Democratic Party wants and that over 60% of the country wants to tax the rich. So a majority of the country wants to tax the rich higher, and he is fighting for the minority position of of keeping the rich richer by not taxing them. So if that's not bad enough,
What a
and for me,
fighter. Oh boy. I can't wait to vote for him in 2028.
that's not if
Oh Lord.
that's not disqualifying for you as the Democratic leader of the Democratic Party. Watch this interview that uh Ben Shapiro, who is a right wing troglodyte, right? He hired Candace Owens after Candace Owens. Remember, and I want to give this context. Ben Shapiro, who only cares about anti-Semitism when it's affecting Israel directly, right? Because remember, he hired Candace Owens when Candace Owens said that Hitler was fine. Hitler was Hitler only was a problem because he had ambitions outside of Germany. So if he would have just kept all that stuff inside of Germany, Hitler would have been fine, right? That I'm
Yeah, pretty
paraphrasing, but
much.
that's
Yeah.
so he was cool with her anti-Semitism until she started going against Israel. I'm giving y'all
Hmm.
this context. I'm giving y'all this context because Gavin Newsom's PR team, like the PR team around him, the people who handle his social media, fantastic. They're connected to the people. He, the politician, is not, and you see it in the interview. He made two very well points online. He said that Israel's committing a genocide, which we all agree with, right? And he said that the ICE agents that killed Miss Good, that was domestic terrorism, right? Which the majority of the people agree with, right? Gavin does not push Ben to his position. He concedes to the logic that Ben says that Israel is not committing a genocide. There's no legal definition of them committing a genocide, and that that citizen being shot and killed by the ICE agents was not domestic terrorism. He walks back the comments that he's posted and put out there that the majority of the American people and base, his base agrees with. He walked back. If you are going to go and have debates with the right wingers and you're trying to be, excuse me, and you're trying to be the president of the United States, you move them to your position. You don't concede to theirs. You
Oh,
move to
yeah.
your position. We can agree. We can agree. If I'm debating Ben Shapiro, me and Ben Shapiro can both agree that that we should protect women. I'm not going to agree with Ben Shapiro on the best way of protecting women or the best person to protect women is Donald Trump, a man who has sexually assaulted women and children. Right? Not no. If I made a statement about something that we saw in 4K, we see it in video. There's been multiple video analysis of the car turning away, that the officer has you was moving in front of the vehicle so that he could use the excuse that the vehicle was being used as a weapon against him. He was creating plausible deniability so he could justify killing her, and he was going to do. And he's there's been so many different analysts that have looked at that video frame by frame, uh, and has done so already. And you concede to Ben that that the ICE agents and their actions are not domestic terrorism, but also, brother, we've are been watching a 4K domestic ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza for the last 2 years, for the last year, 2 years, and you're conceding to Ben on that? You're not going to fight back. You have no spine.
None. Ugh.
You are not in any
Eh,
way, shape, or form fit to be the president, the fit to be the Democratic. You're not fit to be the Democratic dog cleaner or
the thing
or
that really gets me about the whole thing is just like he talked so tough when ICE first descended on LA and their big mega sweep last last spring that and like to just turn around, especially in the context of what's going on in Minneapolis and the murder of Renee Good, to like mealy mouth go like walk back on is like, well, they're just they're just another government agency. It's like what a coward, what a spineless little like just it it's hard to wonder if like he thinks that is that a political calculation or is he just to have no principles whatsoever just
it,
uh
for him, it's a political calculation. The problem is that whoever's telling him that this is the best way to do so is lying to him. It's
yeah.
just they're lying to you, bro. You're just
I was reading somewhere. This reminds me of like so I from some of the inside baseball going on in DC right now. It's like some of the Democrats they are trying it sounds like they took the wrong lessons away from 2020 and they think like abolish ICE is just as toxic as like defund the police. Which by the way, there's I would debate that's not really toxic anyway, but a lot of Democrats view defund the police as like something that contributed to their losses in 2024 or whatever. And so they're reading it with the same lens, even though ICE, like ICE and the police are different things. ICE is a very new agency. And ICE, even among conservatives, we're seeing some conservatives, turning away against ICE. Now, abolish ICE is becoming the moderate position. And these centrist Democrats are like still years behind because they're listening to their out of touch consultants.
dog. It is not. It is beyond. It's beyond infuriating to watch or to look at people who clearly have the ambition to want to run for office, and they are one not tuned in, or two just don't care. They're used to the glazing of mainstream media, and they're forgetting that the internet exists and that we can analyze the things that you've said and done in real time. And it bothers me because I'm just like, dog, no, no, you don't want to tax billionaires when billionaires are the problem. They are the only minority in the country. That's the actual problem in the country. That's harming the rest of society, right?
Hmm.
And then in and on top of that, you have you have shown that when it comes to you dealing with people who have the opposite ideology of you have no way of actually fighting back. You are happy to slow walk us into fascism. You just want to be the arbiter of us slow of. You just want to be at the top of the parade. You want to be at
Yep.
the top of the parade. You have no fight back. I have no interest in this man. And I have no interest in that man. I've had no interest in him as president for a very long time. I mean, not, I mean as anything that has to do with the leadership of the Democratic Party for a very long time. But no,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
All
If
right.
you want to
So
watch Dr. Juice, go watch. If you want to watch that, go watch that. I would rather you watch uh Kyle Kalinske. Kyle Kalinske was recently on the Pierce Morgan show, and they were
oh
debating
really?
about yes. He was on the panel with uh I forgot who the other people are. It's not important. Kyle goes dark woke. He's he slaughters the panel. It's
Yeah.
not it's brutal. Um Same thing with Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. She did a debate about feminism against just pearly things and this other like Chad Red Pill adjacent uh right wing YouTuber. They had a debate, and Anna stomped this woman. It's one of the most brutal debates I have ever seen. I felt bad. I felt bad for this troglodyte for Just Pearl. Just Pearl's not a person that I like. I don't like any of her. I don't like any of her commentary. You shouldn't like any of her commentary. She's a woman that hates women. Anna gave her the she gave her the type of beating. You remember when the Hulk grabbed Loki and and was slamming her
Yep.
to the ground and Avengers? Yeah, it was like that. It was like that. I was like, ooh, ooh, oh God, you're still going. Oh, ow.
Oh man. Oh, okay. So Lawrence, I think I'm gonna leave it there. I want to spend the last 10 minutes closing out with some words from Cornell West's Dr. Cornell West's appearance um, here at Western yesterday. But did you have any closing things to say before we wrap up?
I know that we keep teasing that we're gonna be doing more content. I know that we saying that. It is in the works, folks. It's just that because of weather and snow and things of that nature, things have been really crazy. Just bear with us. That's
Oh
all
yeah.
I got.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
All right. Okay, everybody out there, keep it down lock. You've been listening to Media Cyphers. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast. You can find out most podcasting apps. Till next time, keep fighting for that revolution solution. And following in just a second, this is Cornell West answering a question posed by the WMU student body when he came to appear yesterday for Martin Luther King Day.